Okay, so get an echo line connects to Tango, Foxtrot, positional levels, position lines, holographic settings, change the hologram setting, height, position, location, units, echo chambers, directing calculation setting, position units, operational settings. I have a correlation setting cord that's connecting position line height calculations. This is going to formulate and communicate the voice line grids into your energetic patterns. It's also going to volume your system and track calculations. All right. So in that track line to this communication system, we have to really understand how our bodies are in a higher line of formations now. So for example, we got to have less ego and more balance with our settings and travel, especially now because the position locations to its vehicles and its connections to its UFO attractions has to understand track location. Okay. This operates the signals. Now in that position of routers, six lines of high position of travel. So we energetic the screens and we adapt the surface. This process communicates setting and travel, points lines of graph. Mechanism line connects setting to a box line rotation surface. The species lines has to really get into understanding how to see a TV in a box frame. Not a mainframe, a box frame. Okay? Does everybody hear me okay in traction? Everybody hear me okay in traction? Just want to make sure you guys are in positions. Good. 3 box line centers. So inline communication, let's start with that traction communications, right? Wall center calculation lines, 1 center, 1 operation surface, 1 setting position calculation. Okay. Center core system into a box frame. Okay, box frame correlation. Position lines, attractions, platforms, 1, 2, and 3 settings. Process calculation, 1, 2, and 3 settings. Process location, 1, 2, and 3 set locations. Right. So you have to truly understand what goes on with your TV when it goes off. That's where it really becomes powerful. You think your TV is powerful when you turn it on. No, it's regenerating its system when the TV goes off. So it's actually more powerful when the TV is off than on. See, when the TV is on, it's in a program. Thumbs up on that setting. Do you understand what I mean by that? It's in its program. It's in its matrix of its program. So when the TV is off, it's in its VR system. It's backwards, guys. See? Because the thing is, when you turn the TV on, you're already in the mechanism line connected to your memory that puts you in the chronological system of its setting of the systematical system that's connected to the VR, that's connected to your mainframe and position where your cerebral, your cerebellum, that coordinates, communicates, and setting when it comes into a projection into all levels of information and calculation, right? So your TV or your phone in position is more powerful when it is off. When it's on, it's in a program in your system. Muscle memory coming back in traction, right? So it automatically goes back into the box and main frames. Filter, no filter. But the position locations. So we're going to go with the coordinate calculation line screen and direct signals. Okay, so you guys have a very powerful line communication of test. That's tomorrow line signal. That process, your position locations are your strengths and weaknesses. The less ego you have, the more you move forward and track locations. So it's really interesting when you look at that equation, isn't it? Right? When your TV's off, when your phone is off. Okay. Now you understand more why it's more powerful when it's off than when it's on. It says as soon as it's on, it's in a program through your memory, which is in chronological order. So when you're watching TV, it's giving back to you through attraction. Okay, it's very powerful when it comes to that calculation, right? So this is a TV. This is what happens when a TV's off. It's in its own system. It's in its own operation. It's in its own algorithm, and it's doing its own setting of its own system of its own data processing. It's upgrading its own algorithms of its own binary, of its own transistors, of its own resistor. So it's staying in its nothingness. And once the TV goes on, whenever you turn the TV on with remote control, okay, it's now programmed through you. It's governed. Everything around you is governed in a program. The only difference is when you turn things off, they're more powerful because they work together as a consignment. Now that puts position location settings to their setting. And this operates the system and track location with calculations, all for information, right? So we get a balanced communication streamline adaptation lines in one center, one surface, one tractions. That direct line signals from one set of locations to a setting. Process of platforms 1, 2, and 3, and 4 set locations. 2 line cycles, 3 lines, 4 setting that travel. Okay? So we got point forward, and we got platforms going lines of south to track location line setting. And the communication setting of pi. That's pi, right? Sets communication lines of blockings of 1, blockings of 2, blockings of 3, blockings of 4 to track location. So we tether lines of setting, 3 lines of communication position of its program. Process calculation screen lines, adaptation lines of system, location lines of pieces of pi. Process communication lines of past, present, and future adaptation line surface. This communicates lines of ground centers into all line position location of a system, all through track location. Position lines of power, direct lines of grounds, operates the surface location system of travel. Set a correlation setting in position 1, 2, and 3 platforms of communication. Energetic dome line screens, platforms 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 locations. Cross-line signals into platforms 1, 2, and 3 line communication. Cross-line signals, crossing line correlation. This is about understanding what you're doing through your travels at data. Position lines of correlations of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's like calculations. Direct lines of calculation lines, cross-line screen. Position lines of 2 panels, cross-line condition setting in position all levels. Tubing line position location of past, present, future, and traction. Very powerful stuff, isn't it? Now we're going to have coloration line screens. So I'm just showing you the pixelation line condition settings. When you're actually looking at a TV, you can see the pixels, right? Each pixel, right? And when you zoom it in, right, it's a portal. Every pixel square is a portal. That's a central line connections that's connected to 144 platforms, 24, 48, 72, 144. So when you're looking at the pixel screen, it's putting lines at correlation setting and track calculation to your platforms, right? How you're going through acceleration in seconds, minutes, and hours. Now the communication lines, the species line is in a 2 battery line switch, and in position of team line is in a 3 battery line switch. AA, AAA. Energizer in the species, Duracell in position locations, all levels in the team setting. Process communication lines is security line divisions in 3 centers and 3 set correlation setting of travel. Okay, sending communication setting in high position operation. Now we're going to go to the green line cycles, line condition setting to the matrix set location of the system. Process communication line, center locations. We go through orange line. Sets lines of creative cycles and correlation setting interactions. And then we get a direct line signals into effect and modified, right? It's all set position travel, right? So this what goes on when your TV's off. This what goes on when your phone is off. It goes through its own structure. It goes through its own design. It goes through its own pixelation. It goes through its own zeros and ones. It goes through its own binary, transistors, resistors, light switches, and its own traffic flow inventory, guys. Very powerful, right? So let me say that again, okay? So you get a true understanding how powerful your TV and your phone and anything that you have in position, as soon as you turn it off, it's more powerful than you can imagine, right? Because it's kind of like you're putting it position locations back to its nothingness, and it stays in its nothingness until you turn everything back on. Once you turn everything back on, okay, you're in program of memory. Process communication line screen sets position location and travels. Sets all communications to its settings and position program. Position lines at center position locations, and ground centers line operation surface and track location. All right, so we go through the metric meters, and we're going to go through blue line screens. 3 line cycles and line on rotation, surface, and traction, right? Take it out of the equation. Okay, there it is. All right, so how's everybody doing so far? Is everybody getting an understanding how powerful it is, what's going on with your settings? Less ego, the more you get out of resistance, okay? You don't want to be resistant in any way and form. The highest information line screen. So it's kind of like you're looking at your TV and you think your TV has an ego. No, it doesn't have any ego. It doesn't exist on an ego. It doesn't have informations of an ego, but it knows why it's there. It's not just for you to watch TV, guys. It's to get your muscle memory back. Same with your phones, same with your cars. anything that you wear. This is a memory because you have it, you attracted it, but it's at a certain frequency, at a certain space, at a certain time, a certain locking system, a certain correlation setting for the attraction, right? This is attraction. This is attraction. This is attraction. My hair is attraction, right? So there's a reason why. So think of yourself as a comic book that's flipping pages back to your design. Your body's going back to its mechanism, position, location, its settings, it travels. Okay, your avatar is going back to its set calculation line centers, into its imprint, set position, location, its original design. Your position, location, track line is going back to your communication system all through operation. All right. All right, so sending position lines of travels. Now we have point lines of graphs. Now we're going to correlate sending position locations, sending track lines, and all levels of battery lines. Sending platforms of 1, 2, 3, and 4 set locations. Process calculation, triangulation lines of box locations. That communicates ground centers of one cycle, one center, one surface, one track locations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 locations. All right. All right. So direct lines, cross line signals, and line condition setting into all levels. Y factor, V factor. We got an S line factor, and a correlation lines of 2 factors over a screen. Very complicated stuff, right? So we have 2 lines of satellites. 2 set location lines. See the satellite position? Program settings. X2000 comes in block centers. Position location programs crosses line signals. Line signal interference position program. Direct calculation lines, ground centers, line and position calculation setting. Process calculation lines go through lines of tubing and creates its own anomaly, line switching in routing, and rotation system locations calculations. Cross line signals, highways, line consists of 4 settings, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 set calculation. Process calculation of ground centers, operates the system location of system. All through traction. Okay? That by equation. All right. Now I'm going to show you exactly. I was in position locations. I was looking at the beach yesterday. Now, everybody's saying, is the earth flat or is the earth round? Well, I'm going to explain it to you right away. You all live in a snow globe. Let me say that again. You live in a snow globe. Okay? The spherical sphere is what it is. This is what it is. All right? This is what you live in. That's it, nothing else. So every time you expand, you're expanding your highways, and it's going further and further out. So it doesn't matter what you do through highway settings, you're always in position, location, attractions, right? And direct signal. So it's spinning very, very fast, but you have a router line setting that puts position, location that keeps going forward through the constellation, right? So in that track line communication setting, puts lines of 3 settings. And when it spins fast, it comes into a globe. It comes in position of spherical sphere and set locations, right? So we all live here, okay? Okay, you're in a snow globe. Okay, this is the ether, this is the core, this is the firmament. Okay, but we all live in this, all right? So every time you expand your highways, you're just moving out. You're moving out. It's like you're running to the sun, and it keeps going farther, right? So you're stretching your highway, you're stretching your highway, you're stretching your highway, okay? And then you have tethers like this, 144 tethers into the ground that's connected to position locations and traction, right? So that's exactly, it's got to be at a certain speed. So with species has to be at a certain frequency to keep the ground lines of its earth, of its polarities, of its female and its position of its male calculations, the paradigms, polar shift, and all calculation setting the paradox. That puts position lines of track calculation setting. But we all live in a spherical sphere. Ether, core, firmament. Okay? Boom. Right? So you can't get past the firmament. You're in a dome. So in that position, anything above lines, you got to be in the mind. Then you go up, right? But you got the ether core, you have the liquid formation core, you have the correlation core, then you have the solid core. Then that position lines of track lines, and then you have the umbrella. You can't get past that either, right? That's position location, crossing line calculation, the rainbow, and the frost bridge. Ooh-ah. Then you go into the firmament. So you stay in here. Species, when they get activated, screen line, adaptation line system, they stay in the cubical screen line. They have adaptation lines to surface application to their simulation. And track position lines of calculation setting. This is where it's really interesting. Your actual Earth is in actual space, but it's spinning very, very fast through gravitation that keeps you in position locations inbound and outbound in set calculation, which is extremely powerful. Okay? Well, that's what everybody lives on. Okay? It's just your highways expand. That's all it is. Getting into the grounds, the powers, and the atmospheres and your highways. So wherever you go, it doesn't matter where you go. You're always going to be inside the center globe, right? So the actual Earth that's inside you is floating, right? It's inside, right? But the actual ground setting of your simulation is also in space. Now that's in and out of resistance. There's a higher information location of consciousness that you can reach. The higher you go into resistance, the higher your levels in space. So you don't have to worry about the ether or the core or the firmament, right? So it puts lines of position, location, attractions, right? And direct signals. Okay, that's where the team is. Okay, above the surface, right? Species are in between here, in correlation, right? Just on the tip. Team, species, right? So they're going to be on probation lines in position location, not in real space, not in real time. They're going to be in simulators. They have a 3-month probation setting position. They got to get the grounds, the powers, and the atmospheres, and understand how to use their Theta operation line screens, adaptation lines, and service locations to a system. They have to learn how to use their consoles, communicate settings on a clocking system, all through foundations, and really understand how to get in position to a certain frequency so they can understand what's going on with their cities through settings of clocking and set calculations. But that's what everybody lives on. A spherical sphere, a snow globe. Okay, so it's the gravitation that's keeping it spin, right? But it's in actual space. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that incredible? Now you understand why it's so important to keep your frequencies in a certain line of a high correlation setting attractions. Keep all levels, get out of resistance and position locations, less ego, more lines of being happy in position lines attractions. You keep the levitation flow going in a continuous force line in position of the same directions. That way it doesn't go confused and line connects to the position of its program because you're not controlling your thoughts, your actions, and your emotions. I'm just showing you how powerful it is. What everybody lives on in the Earth rotation. Okay? So, it's a lot to take in, isn't it? When you really understand your highways, then you understand when you get up and you move, it doesn't where you move, it's all in coordinates, it's all in data, it's all in mapping, right? So it doesn't matter where you go, right? So once you pass the ether and the core, and you give its location to its umbrella, to its infirmant, you're seeing yourself above, looking below, right? So all it is your highways. You're expanding your highways. You're coming into expansion of your consciousness, of your awareness. You're coming into longitude and latitude. So your mind is opening up more concept. It's understanding more lines of navigation. So when you actually look above, that's real space. Looking below, that's your Earth. Okay? So when you're in the mind and position lines of travel through the operation system, you are no longer on your Earth. You're actually in space. Okay? It's very confusing, right? Because the adaptation of line communication is no lines of calculation setting. When you have no resistance, you're all levels of space. Your Earth is your foundation graph. Okay? Your Earth is your set position location. Now 1 times 1 equals 1, right? But in space, it's anything through geometric lines of settings because you can be anything through a highway, anything through space, anything through time, anything through no space, or anything through space. So it's up to you. You are your own formula. You are your own equations in the VR system. Okay? So the actual simulation that you have co-created of your cities, your foundations, and your clocking is floating in space. Okay? But it's all adaptability in the mind. Okay? It's a concept of the mind. It's the imagination of the mind. It's the phenomenon of the mind. We live in the mind, become the mind, you are the mind, and the mind itself, right? And they realize what I'm basically coming in position of is truly understand how do I understand myself through navigation and that calculations. This process is you in a lot of ways and forms, but I'm just showing you exactly what everybody lives in process communications, right? You guys are in your own snow globes. Okay, you have your own Earth. You have to expand in the mind. Okay, you got to get into your expansion. You got to get into your exploration. You got to get into what you see is beyond, going beyond, right? That's what it is. You're just creating higher levels of highways, right? Very powerful, isn't it? All through traction, right? So it doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't matter where you go. All you're doing is you're expanding your highways. You're expanding your data highways, Omni highways, neural links. Okay, there's 3 track locations in highway settings, right? Filters, line conditions, echo chambers, box track, tango. But I'm just trying to get you to understand these things. This is the transit and position locations, right? That's the equal. That's the equal, right? So there's a platform here, right? Sets position here, right? So this is what it is in traction. Okay? So what you're doing is you're expanding your highways. That's all you're doing. So let's say this is California, right? This is Detroit, right? This is Barbados. Okay? So all you're doing is creating higher levels of highways and higher levels of divisions and higher levels of intelligence that puts information location in the ground setting. But you're always in the connections of its dome, right? You have to be. Your connections to your body has to be on the earth. Okay? Your body is actually on the earth, right? That's the one that stays in the center of operation. You stay here. But the mind is the center of operation, moving everything. Okay? That's position of its setting to its wormhole and track location, right? But you always are here. You never leave here. All you're doing is your mind is moving and existing at all different levels of highways. Okay? So in position, California, Detroit, Barbados, Mexico. Okay? So every time you move your mapping sequence, but you never leave. You're always in the center operation. Okay? So I'm trying to get you to understand how this all works, how you get in your travels, okay, of highways. You're expanding yourself, right? So every time you're expanding yourself, this starts to move. This starts to move. Okay? This starts to expand. Okay? Then you leave the position locations of traction. It expands in the mind. So the more you get in position, the more you actually live, you become your RI and the mind into the VR system. It expands, and the snow globe gets bigger in traction, and it expands the mind. Okay? But you start with the position of your highways first, your data highways, your grounds, your powers, your atmospheres. Then you get into the higher levels of Omni links and position locations to neural links. Surfacing correlation lines that track centers and position its operation surface. But this is exactly what happens when you expand the mind. Okay? You never leave the center. The energetic globe, the snow globe, just gets bigger over time. It expands the mind. The mind moves everything of its setting, right? So the more you live in the mind, become you are, I am the mind. But it just stays in the center. You stay in the center, but you're on the earth. But it's inside you. But it's also in space. Earth, space, space of earth. So very powerful, isn't it? That's all it is. You're expanding the minds. Right? This is the eye central calculation lines that I see in all. From a bird's eye looking down. Okay? But that's all it is you're creating grounds, powers, and atmospheres. You guys are your own fractals of your own fields of yourself. Coming back to yourself, the original design. But you got to stay calm. Okay? Because your body's going to react. Right? And it's going to exploit the energetic bubble. If it has a leak in position lines attractions, it deflates. It deflates its frequencies. And it gets smaller in track location. And it loses its correlations of traction. You don't want that, because that's going to put you in the matrix in calculation setting at a low frequency. You don't want that. So your actual Earth in position, once you reach a certain line of resistance, your calculations of your mind line is actually in space. But your body is on the Earth. So it's Earth is space, space of Earth. So it becomes Earth is space, space of Earth. Right? So the actual Earth itself, okay, is actually in space. There's nothing grounds. And that's why you have the ground itself. It's spinning very, 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 very fast. Right? And that keeps you the compressor of compression. And that keeps you in all levels, the pixelations in a formation. Pixelation, all in position of zeros and ones, how it inventories and track location with system. Moving very, very fast. Right? So the faster you go over the grounds, the more balanced you are with the expansions of the mind. Okay? But that's exactly what happens. It expands. Okay? The energetic bubble expands. All right? Your ether, your core, your ferments expand. You expand your space. Atmospheres, hemispheres, stars, bio, and brain all expand. Ultraspheres, ionospheres, correlation spheres. There's so many lines of communication setting. You just have to come into your own adaptability and realize you are the center operation of you that never leaves, but it stays all timelines all at once. So it's not 25 minutes, okay? It's every 25 seconds, okay? So every 25 seconds is every 25 minutes. It can be whatever it wants to be. Right now, there's no time. You're never late in any way and form. You're always on time because there's no days of the week. There's no months of the year, okay? So I say it's 25 seconds. I say it's 25 minutes. I say it's 25 hours. I've been talking to you. I say it's only been 25. Centerline communication. I can say what it is because I'm my own formula. I'm my own equation. I'm my own mind. I'm my own nothingness. I'm my own awareness. I'm my own setting, position, location of operation. I say what it is because I am in control of my simulation, of my simulators of programming. And once you guys identify that, life gets a lot more easier, but you got to get out of your egos. Less ego, less resistance, more formation, more foundation, more understanding, more operation and calculations. All right. But that's all it is. That's all you guys live in. Okay. So this is actually in real space, floating, but it's at a certain gravitation. So it's important you stay out of the resistance and keep it going. And the more you do that, then once you get into that position, you come into all of a sudden location setting. This is the energetic dome. Start with that. Then you build your cities inside correlation. You build it inside. And then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, right? It just gets bigger. That's all it is. It just gets bigger. That's all it is. It just gets bigger. That's all it is. That's all it is. But you stay in the center. You don't move. You're all timelines all at once. All you got to do is you're expanding your highways. And every time you expand your highways, your energetic globe is getting bigger and bigger over time. Okay? That's all it is, nothing else. But you have to understand the frequencies now because your cities are in positional lines at different lines of clocking, of different platforms of communication. Okay, there's 4 central line connection and a 3-line communication, right? And we got a 6-line calculations, 3 lines, 4, 5, and 6 locations, right? So all you're doing is you're expanding your minds of your highways. That's all you're doing. See, very powerful stuff, isn't it? So once you understand all this, it gets much easier to understand location of travel, right? But that's all you guys live in, energetic dome, right? So once it spins really, really fast and you go to higher level position locations, the circulation and rotation goes so fast, you actually live in a hologram of a structure line of a spherical sphere. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So if you understand that, then you understand the importance of the grounds, the powers, and the atmospheres. Putting that in position, location, and attractions puts everything all together, right? Understanding how to create those cities at a certain frequency, at a certain position, at a certain time, okay, through a certain lines of alteration line comes to reading temperature readings, or anything correlations of barometers or location of thermometers or line setting calculations. Your job is to basically come into your muscle memories of what you already know through your technologies so you can understand the advancements. Then you can understand how it works with the basic, intermediate, and in settings. Processing your position location is truly extending you through allocations of time and sequence. How it all comes information is a balance through expansion. Through expanding the minds, guys, that's all it is. Start with that again. Okay. So getting that position locations, we have to come into theta communications of the box ranks, how we look at things. So start with this locations. Right, so this is you. Right, so this is you. This is it. That's all it is. Right? So wherever you go, you're expanding. Okay? You're expanding, right? So every time you're doing that and you get out of less resistance, your energetic bubble, your data is getting bigger, right? You go here, right? And then it gets bigger, right? And then it gets bigger, okay? And then it gets bigger. That's all it is, right? So you never leave the grounds. So you have 144 lines of Theta, which is connected to DNA fabrications of Mother Earth, process calculations of platforms, electrical line wires, and position of ground centers that keeps information location setting, right? So try to understand how this all works now. So all the avatar is doing is creating platforms at higher levels of division, right? But it's expanding its bubble and getting bigger. That's all it is, right? It's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So the more it gets bigger, you're out of the ether, the core, and the ferment. Now you're in actual space, not in simulated space, real time. You have to be very careful because now you're connecting to all of what you're hearing of space. Right? It's all connected setting line inside location your system. Echo, right? So your ears just pop and it goes into higher levels of space. One thing that doesn't leave is you. You stay in the center operations of seconds, minutes, and hours. Your second, minutes, and hours through an avatar is clocking. So there is no seconds, there is no minutes, there is no hours. Just you in a constant rotation. Okay? The existence of nothing, but the existence of everything all at once. All timelines all at once. There's no time frame. Okay? Now, there is a time frame if you want to be a time frame. I'm trying to get you guys to understand the balance of what you have to get in position of. You have to find a way to get into your own formulas of your own equations, right? Or you're going to have a very hard time understanding you or where you are in set calculations, how to use yourself into your own calculations, to your own computer's operation. Okay? So it's very powerful when you start recognizing that through expansion, right? So let's start again. This is why you have 24, 48, 72, and 44 platforms, right? So let's start with the grounds. 24, 48, 72, 144. All right? Start with that, right? So energetic dome, crystal dome. That's a crystal dome, right? So then you got ether, you got your core, you got your ferment, and then you got space. Okay? So once you get to 144, you're at a clocking system. Right? So in set position locations, you are in the center operation, right? So you have 144 frequency. That's the basic grounds, right? That's the tether core that's inside the earth lines of Mother Earth. You're in the center. You don't leave. You just go through platforms. You just go through platforms. You just go through platforms. You just go through platforms, right? You do expand the mind. You expand the mind. That's all you do. You're going through platforms. That's all you're doing. Nothing else. Okay? You stay in the center. But what you're doing is you're expanding the mind of operation. Okay? That's all it is. Right? So that's it. It's understanding platforms. Right? So you can't leave the system because you're already there. But as long as you understand, you live in a connections of energetic dome in position location. Okay, so all you're doing is expanding the mind, exploration and correlation. Okay, you don't leave the center. You expand through the center and get bigger and bigger and bigger in the mind. You're everywhere all at once, all through space and time. Okay, that's all this is, right? So general doesn't leave, but I leave everywhere, right? So all levels of the mind is space, nothing, everything in between. The in-between is all position location calculation. When I say in-between, I'm talking about higher levels of space. That's what I mean by in-between, right? Ultra space, ionosphere space, correlation space, millennium space, right? All levels. They're just platforms, guys. That's all it is. All I'm doing is you can't leave a dome. You can't leave the dome because the dome is space, but you're expanding the mind, right? So the actual dome is plasma, but it's a certain line of communication of frequencies. You can't leave space until you understand space of you inside. You got to expand the mind first. And when you expand the mind, then you understand the platforms of space and time, right? But that's all it is. It starts with this, starts with this, starts with that, okay? You're always in the center. You don't leave. You don't leave. You just expand and you go through your highways, the higher level set in frequencies, right? Platform 1, 2, and 3, right? Oh, and now I'm in China, right? Now I'm in America, okay? Oh my gosh, look at that. See? It's just expansion, right? So nothing leaves. The mind itself becomes extremely exponential, okay? That's it. So grasp the situation, location of expansion, circulation, rotation, right? So you're actually spinning, see? You're spinning, 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 spinning. So the dome is going like this. The dome is going like this. The dome is going like this, right? So it's constantly spinning, 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 right? The faster it spins, the more it becomes a spherical sphere in position to its operation surface, okay? So there's two halves, right? You got the space half and you got the earth half, right? So the actual earth itself can be anything to measure, anything through scale, anything through balance. It can be anything through its GOD. Yes, that's right. Your earth has to go back to its original design. Not you, the earth. The earth that you're on, that's inside of you. So you are the earth that's inside of everything, right? And this is where it comes in tractation system. Start with this calculation. Okay. Start with that calculation. Line screens, direct signals. Okay, so it gets confusing after a while. You start with that location, right? So it comes in this location. That's it, right? And you look at it from above, looking below, right? So you just keep expanding, expanding, expanding. That's all it is. You're expanding space and time, and you're traveling. Okay, you're constantly traveling to higher levels of visualization, galaxies, universes, that calculation system. But you never ever leave the center operation. Right? You're always in the center of everything. Everything that you see is the center of everything. Right? But I just wanted to show you how powerful it is, how you come into that position of case calculations. Okay? It's amazing, when you start recognizing your highways, your omnis, and your neural links, and really understand information, location, grounds, the powers, and the atmospheres. How this all comes together in traction. Okay? All right. That's it. We're done. Whew. That was a lot, There's a lot to be understood, to be understanding. And I'm just showing you exactly what you guys are in now, in position. You have to really get in that position lines of calculation system. Because everything you're looking around is a simulator. Everything like you said, your actual simulation is inside you. But once you understand the explorations of you, you can expand out, and it becomes a hologram. So the hologram pushes your body out and expands in the mind. That's all it is. So the more you get into the simulation, the more you understand the tractions and division. Platforms at 24, 48, 72, and 144. That puts you in all levels of communications into balance of your calculation setting to your vehicles and your ships of set design. Okay? Everybody mind blown now? It's exciting, Isn't that exciting? When you really understand what real space is now, I'm trying to get you guys to understand calculations. Starting with distractions. Look how powerful it is, right? The faster it spins on the grounds, the more it expands the mind. The slower, the more it tracks its position, right? It gets slower, 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 right? Your body reacts more. Your body has to be a certain frequency to live in the temperature readings of the VR system of blocking. It has to be at a certain frequency of grounds. Your Earth is spinning very, very fast, and it's keeping you above the gravitation of its pull, right? Through its alterations, its atmospheres, and its oxygen line settings. But it's very powerful when you understand position. Okay, so that's all it is. Your Earth is actually shifting back to its original design, and it's affecting your body through reaction. Okay, you all have to go back to where you're supposed to be. The mindset of operation. All right. So in that position of this platform, I'd like to show you where you come in that relation to attractions, right? See the tether below? Track location. Setting lines of communication, setting the program sets line coordinates settings to your data highways, your Omni highways, and your narrow links. This process your position locations calculations, all through expansion. So you never leave the center operation of you. It's the mind that does everything in expansion, guys. Okay? The position location of the brain just does the conversion. It's the computer. Okay? And the heart is the alignment of time through its reactor. And everything through the soul is all through light of travel. And the body is just automatic. It's an automatic pilot now. So all it's doing is trying to understand its platforms of expansion in the mind system. All levels of exploration. See? That's all it is. So every time I draw something, you can see what's going on. Very powerful stuff with patience. Like this in exact lines. This is a mainframe box line that calculates the line interference and position locations coming in the Mexican team, traveling them to the location setting to their holographic cities to set design. Look how powerful that is, right? These are the box frames of the individuals on the team, right? This is the tubing. This is the black hole they go through. How they come in communication setting through a box or a mainframe contraction, right? So this is what it is. I'm trying to get you guys to understand the set calculation system, right? This is you in the center that never leaves. That never leaves. It stays in the center of operation, okay? All you're doing is you're expanding the mind, travel. That's all you're doing. It doesn't matter how you use it in all ways and forms, but that's all you're doing is you're creating higher levels of travels and dimensional lines of scales and positional balance. You're always in the center. It doesn't matter what you do. This is your energetic dome. That's where you are, right? This is your energetic dome. That's where you are. Your location. You're expanding. You're expanding. You're expanding. Understand? All right. Now, when it gets to a certain frequency, it's changing its setting, right? It's changing its setting. Okay? It's changing its setting. Okay? It's changing its setting, right? It comes into a flower of life, a transition. Right? So what is your actual Earth turning back to? Its planet of operation. Okay? That's all it is. That's all it is. But you have the energetic dome this way. Okay? And you have it energetic dome this way. Look how powerful this is in traction. Look what it's doing. It's trying to find its way back to its VR system. It's trying to find its way back to its VR system. That's all it is. Look how powerful that is. Flywheel traction. Hoo-ah, the flower of life. Okay? But you are always in the center operation that never, never, never leaves. Okay? A lot more understanding now, right? Okay? This is the expansion of platforms, going through different lines of countries, cities, towns, whatever, right? But you're always in the center. You never leave, right? But see, there is no background and there is no foreground. So you're working with the Earth. You're going in the same directions of the Earth. Okay, so it's kind of like, and you're in a game, you're like this, right? You're running, but the background is moving. You're still. Okay, the matrix puts you in that position, location, attractions, keeps you still. You're in a stillment. You're not moving, right? So the whole idea here is to open up the mind so you can reach the conscious levels to get out of the resistance so you can go with the system, not against the system. Okay? Because that sets up Trojans and viruses and pythons, and you don't understand your communication setting when it comes to all levels of your onions and track locations, right? For your light web and your dark web to set locations, right? So I'm moving and everything around me is moving at the same time, at the same frequency, at the same blocking, at the same location, at the same vision. Okay? All at once, all timelines all at once. You're constantly in a continuous flow where there is no day, there is no month, there is no year, just the now. Okay? All at once. right? So it's not the seconds, minutes, and hours that counts, okay? It's the clockings of the seconds, minutes, and hours, okay? How an avatar travels, right? So remember this, it's all about understanding balance between you and where you are in position of the mind, right? You're connecting all things all at once, and everything is connected to you at a certain time, at a certain frequency. Not everything is the same frequency. You got to get balanced with that. And the only way to do that without in position location is to get into resistance. Find a way to get your positions and how to have a direct line of sight, how you look at things, right? I got 3 chairs in position lines. I also have a table. I have a plant over line cycle. I have electrical core lines. I got 1, 2, position of 3, 4 lines of painting. Then I got 2 panels correlations. I got a scene line correlation setting. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 segregation of lights of 6 tractions. And I got another plant line condition. All in my box frame. Okay? So wherever you are, it's about balancing the frequencies. Okay? Without resisting. You have to have a continuous flow, right? Because if you don't have a continuous flow, you're going to have a very hard time understanding your earth or where you are in tractions and state calculations, right? Let's say you're on platform 1, and then this is what happens to your system with routers and routers. It's falling off, right? So this is your energetic dome. This is where you are in the mind. It's falling, right? So what is that doing to the body? The body's resisting, okay? So it's in floating. It's in off-grid, online, offline, online, off-grid. Off calculation settings, if it's offline, on-grid, doesn't matter in traffication system, but you have to know exactly, am I roguing or in position lines of travel, right? So I'm nowhere, I'm floating in space. I don't know where I am. I don't know where I am in the mind. I don't know where I am in space of the mind, right? You start with the Earth of space, and then you go into the space of Earth, right? But this is what it is in all track visualize the cycles. It gets more lines of connection system once you understand all levels of calculation. All formations. Looking at always in forms. Always looking at a 4 lines setting. Okay? Very powerful stuff, right? Always looking at a full way. See? See how it changes 4 lines different directions? See that? See? Imagine going really, really fast. Right? All at once, all at once, all at once. So, flat surface, circulatory. Circulation, circulation, circulation. This way, that way, this way, this way, that way, this way, right? So the faster it goes, the more it creates a sphere, okay? And when it creates a sphere, whoa, they can go anywhere it wants, at any space, at any time. That's where it becomes the nothingness of its everything, of its equation, of mass, right? Because the mind is going so fast, it doesn't need to understand where it's going because the mind does it by itself. So you're all coming back to the mind of itself, of its operation of itself, that's all spherical sphere of set calculation system. Okay? The flower of life. Through the heart reactor. Okay? So, exciting, isn't it? Trying to get you guys to really understand the process, how this all works. I'm saying, how am I going to show them exactly where they are in track location, right? Set position lines of the species, team, right here. Okay, team's here, species are here. Okay? Ooh-ah. Right? That's it. All right. So that's probably the most powerful thing they can give you guys to know exactly what you're up against. Why it's so important is to just focus on yourself and expand yourself through the mind of operation. Quiet the mind, calms the soul, and then you see yourself expand. Okay, without any question at all. Okay, and then you understand what goes on when you get into those platforms of 2030, 2040, 2075. You're ready to go with your technology, which you already know. Okay? Bye.